So, Sarah, let's talk about Gus, the Amazon who is on screen right now. He's getting some medication. I want to remind visitors and viewers that they can ask questions about Gus specifically or about the birds in general in the chat, and we'll try to get answers to your questions. So, Gus, I'll start a little off where I plan to, but Gus is getting some medication here. Gus has got some health issues. Let's talk about that and what that's like.
Yeah, he's got a combination of things going on, and this is a great example of I don't know. I guess we have a little flock of health challenged Amazons at this point. Mickaboo's been around for 25 years, and we do see a lot of Amazons that come in if they've already lived in a home for a couple of decades. They're entering the second half of their life potentially, and that's when all the previous lifestyle and care conditions start catching up with them. So Gus is a good example of that.
Bad diet and bad care.
Yeah, he came in appearing to be healthy, no modifications, no obvious issues, but initial presentation versus what's really going on inside can be a little different. And over the course of 4 years, his health problems really started to show. So he was 38 years old when Mickaboo took him in.
And that was about 4 years ago?
That was 4 years ago, yeah. And over the course of those 4 years, his eyesight was the first thing that really began to show. He was having problems being able to navigate a little bit. It became clear that whilst he can still make out light and dark movement to some extent, he was losing a lot of visual detail. And that's typical of, birds getting cataracts when they're older. And we've seen that in quite a few Amazons we've had in our care. So his eyesight got to the point where it's really important not to surprise him. His foster is really good about saying touch to him when she gets close before she's going to try and handle him or towel him. And that helps him kind of understand that she's going to try and pick him up. And we don't move anything in his cage in terms of the general configuration. One of our things we teach in the class is to reconfigure cages every couple of weeks, which helps with enrichment and foraging and resetting hormones in a healthy parrot. But for someone like Gus with eyesight problems, we wouldn't recommend that. So his food bowls, especially,
that would just be confusing for him. Yeah,
exactly. He'd just lose his orientation completely. So his food and water stays in the same place, and his main perches and his favorite bell, that all stays exactly where he knows it is, and he can navigate more easily that way.
So we've determined Gus is about 44 years old, and he's got visual issues. First of all, Amazons can live for 70 or 80 years. So it's not that he's an old Amazon, but rather, as we said, he's middle-aged, but decades of not great care have caught up. What other, he was taking a number of medications there. So beyond his eyesight, what else is he dealing with?
Yeah, the medications are mainly treating heart disease. So one of the issues with poor diet over a couple of decades or more is leading to heart disease and cardiovascular issues. So he's on a couple of heart medications that help him with the fact that his heart's not in the best of health. So that helps improve his circulation. Without his heart meds, he would be a lot more lethargic and less likely to eat properly, and may start to lose weight. Could even suffer a stroke or something that's really serious. So his heart medication now, it's twice a day for the rest of his life, and it's the most important medication for him to take, because at this point for him it's life-saving.
And is he also on anti-inflammatories for arthritis?
That's right, yeah. So he's also on some pain meds and some anti-inflammatories that help with his issues with his general joints, but mainly his legs, and keeping him mobile. It's good for him to move. It's important for him to move. And even though he's blind, he's got a bell, which he absolutely loves hanging upside down on. He'll get quite vocal and have a little play session, kind of yelling and just thrashing around on it. And that's good for him. That's good exercise. It means that he's feeling well enough to do that. And we want to encourage him to move safely as much as we can.
Absolutely. Just like us humans, as we get older, it's important for us to keep moving.
Yeah, no perch potatoes. Yeah.
Um, so he gets a number of different medications. How difficult is it to give him medication? And I want to point out that he was toweled, meaning he was wrapped in a towel to get him medication. How does that work for Gus and in general if people aren't familiar with it?
Yeah, it's pretty common that if you have a parrot that has a health problem, it's very likely they might need some oral medication, which is usually delivered by a little syringe twice a day. And so holding them in a towel, you could see the foster was holding them, around the back of their head, kind of underneath their jaw, and holding them upright, giving them the medication that way. It's a really useful skill. I know a lot of people initially, when we talk to them about the fact that their bird needs to take medication, feel very uncomfortable doing it. But you would be amazed with just, working on it every day, how quickly you can get used to what's involved, and it becomes a lot less dramatic really quickly. The bird gets accustomed to it as well. You reward them with a little treat afterwards and praise them and give them lots of attention. Make it a sort of routine where, there's a cue and a time of day when you're doing it. The bird recognizes what you're about to do. And, Gus has been doing this for 4 years now. So whilst I wouldn't say he enjoys it, he and his foster, they were both learning together. She had never fostered an Amazon before, let alone had to do oral medication for one. So we had a couple of visits with an experienced foster that came in to help and show her how it was done and give her support and encouragement. And that's the great thing about being part of the Mickaboo community, on our mailing list. We don't just give you a foster bird and say, here you go, good luck. You've got the support of people who've been fostering for years, people who've dealt with all kinds of health issues, and birds of different mobilities and challenges. And we're all here to support each other. So it took a little bit of learning, but Gus was able to stay in the same foster home. And they just got their routine down. She weighs him every day. She does his meds. You can see he gets spray showers, which he absolutely loves. And they've just modified his whole setup to make sure that we're taking good care of his health as much as we can at this point.
That's awesome. And, the point is really well taken that we do as an organization help our adopters and fosters learn some of the more challenging things if they ask.
Yeah, I mean, this really, I think it helps explain why our bird care class is 3 hours long. That's not just because we're indulging and we love talking about birds ad nauseum. Although we do. That's why we're here today. It is a very much, we have many different topics we cover in there. Health is one of them, and we're trying to introduce you to a lot of concepts that we're hoping will be there for you to refer to if you do encounter health issues with a bird you're caring for. And it's, the chances that you can successfully navigate it with a bit more information and education. We're really, really education oriented for this reason, because it really helps improve the chances that you and your bird can succeed when you might hit a challenging scenario like an injury or an unanticipated health development. And Mickaboo is a resource for that. Even if you adopt from us, even if you're not fostering, we really hope you'd stick around and consider us as a community a big resource of knowledge and support for scenarios like this.
Yeah, Mickaboo has been really helpful for us, when we came on board, and we're learning. It is a great community.
We're all still learning.
Yeah, we are. I joke when teaching the bird class, I don't teach the class because I know everything about parrots, because nobody knows everything about parrots. We are still learning so much.
Oh yeah, 100%.
How did Gus come to Mickaboo?
He was surrendered by his owners. They'd had him his whole life up to that point, all 38 years. They bought him as a very young bird from a breeder to be a family pet. And they cared for him that whole time. They had kids of their own that grew up and moved out as adults, and Gus was still there. And then they just reached a point in their life when they were going to downsize and move, and they were going to be heading out of state. So they were leaving California, and their new situation wasn't going to be compatible with taking Gus with them. And they did a great thing by researching and, rather than just trying to, find a friend or a neighbor that would help them out, as it were. really carefully kind of interviewing and screening to find a home that really understands what they're getting into and is ready. It's a big part of why we do what we do with our process that Jonathan described. So, you know, we were able to take Gus in and make sure that he's getting a home that understands Amazons, because, you know, Gus is, you know, a lot of Amazons have a lot of character, but I would say Gus is really charismatic Amazon. Despite his
And
health issues, he's really, you know, he's a pretty charismatic guy.
and it's important to say, and we don't try to underplay some of the difficulties that come with having parrots in your home. Parrots in general can be loud, and Amazons are on the loud scale for parrots. How loud is Gus? Does he get loud?
He can get loud. He has moments. So he'll be quite happy for, you know, a lot of the time during the day. He'll be preening, perching, taking naps, you know, especially as he's a bit older. But he enjoys his out time on top of his cage, and he'll have little play sessions where he gets on his bell and hangs upside down. And he's got a big vocabulary of catchphrases. He likes to say, "Hi, how are you?" And uh-oh, and earthquake. And he makes a siren noise. He goes, "Woo, woo, woo." And so he'll get upside down on his bell and start, you know, going through his repertoire and making a lot of conversational noises. And he's
He's also known to ask Alexa for things, and we'll see that on video, I think, right?
yeah, that's his party trick. They if you have an Amazon smart speaker, you might want to hit the mute microphone button on it right now, because we do have a little demonstration of him, and he's really enjoyed getting to know Alexa. He's learned a few things that Alexa can do. And
I just dawned on me that we're talking about an Amazon using Amazon.
yeah.
That's pretty funny.
Yes.
We are getting tight on time, so I want to go through a couple of other things.
Yeah.
We mentioned that his diet wasn't so good before. How's his diet now, and what does he eat, and what are some treats that he likes?
We've really worked on his diet, so now he's eating Harrison's pellets, which are the Avian
Yay.
Veterinary recommended brand, and that's been really important for him. So he's pretty good about taking those most of the time. He'll also eat his veggies. Some days are better than others, but he gets a daily portion of veggies. His foster is also great about baking birdie bread from time to time, so that's another way to incorporate some more veggies into his diet and get some moisture in there. You know, baking something that's sort of healthier with more whole grains in it. And he still gets the odd nutri-berry for a treat. If he's not feeling great, sometimes he'll have quieter days where he's not as active, and that's why we weigh him to keep his weight up. And he'll get a few extra nutri-berries just to make sure he doesn't drop his weight too much. He's had a couple of scares where we've taken him in just to see if we need to modify his dosages and make sure he stays in good shape.
You brought up an important thing about weighing, and Gus being weighed daily is more than most healthy birds need, but weekly is certainly kind of a minimum.
That's right.
Parrots really hide illness well, which is typical for prey animals. They don't want to look like the weak or sick one. And often the only sign that a bird is getting sick is weight loss.
Weight loss.
It's important to weigh them regularly.
Definitely.
How big a cage should a bird like Gus have?
It's pretty important they have a decent sized cage. Even though Gus has health issues, he still can have active moments, and we encourage him to move. So his cage, I think, is either 32 or 34 inches wide. It's got 1 inch bar spacing. It has a raised base platform because he's more at risk of falling given his vision problems. And it's kitted out with a few more rope perches because that's easier for him to grip on, but he's still active in it. He still climbs around. You can see him on the top there, and he'll climb around on the inside too. So not all birds with health issues necessarily need to be put in small hospital cages. Keeping them moving is really important for their quality of life too, not just exercise, but that he enjoys his bath time, his out time on the rope perch, getting attention. That's part of his daily routine.
He looks like he interacts pretty well with people, or at least with people he likes. Does he step up?
He steps up really well on a rope perch, but we wouldn't recommend using your hand or your arm just because for him, grip and balance are more difficult.
Yeah.
And whilst he might do it, when he slips, he's going to use his beak to catch himself. And you're just putting yourself at risk of getting nipped. And Amazon beaks can bite pretty hard. If he gets surprised by a movement, he might express his displeasure about that with a slightly harder beaky moment. And I think, given his situation, either a towel, which is nice and grippy on your arm, or a rope perch would be much more comfortable and easier for him to stay balanced.
That makes sense. I want to point out also, Mickaboo recognizes that with a special needs bird like Gus, there's going to be more vet care required, and so we waive the adoption fee on our special needs birds as a way of recognizing that you're already committing financially to care of the bird in a bigger than usual way.
Absolutely. And I think for Gus as well, I can imagine a lot of people being intimidated by his medical needs, but we do also have an angel sponsorship program. And if you wanted to have him stay with his foster, who loves him very much, but support his medical care with monthly sponsorship or angel donations, we of course would be happy to share updates about Gus's progress and how he's doing. And our angel program is another way that we're able to handle the pretty significant monthly vet fees. Birds like Gus are a big part of why our monthly vet fees ongoing are so high.
Yeah. So before we wrap up, I'd love to see some video of Gus and his friend Alexa.
All right, it's really short. Turn your volume up. It's not much visual wise, but you can hear him talking to Alexa. His foster is called Marissa.
He's actually having Mariska call his foster, right?
Yeah, he's summoning his foster mom through Alexa. That's what he's doing. So let's see if we can play that for you now.
Alexa, where's that boy?
Calling Marissa.
Alexa.
That's him. He's got it down.
Yeah, he sure does.